We'll call to order the City Council of Brookings workshop at 5:47 p.m. on Monday, February 9th. Roll call? Do we want to do official roll call or have me just announce?
You can just announce.
Okay, so we have with us, is Councilor Fulton still online?
Yes.
Okay, so we have Councilor Fulton appearing electronically. We have Councilor Malmberg, Councilor Gelada, and Councilor Martin, myself, Mayor Pareda, and for staff, we have City Manager Tim Rundell, Tony Barron, and Wendy, tell me how to say your last name. And Brooklyn, Ulsterhage, hard last names, and 2 members of the community in presence. So we'll go ahead and move on to our topics for the night. Final revision for TPAC reboot.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, before you tonight are a few items, and I'm hopeful that this will be our final meeting in discussing TPAC. We've had a couple of meetings this last year discussing it, and I'm going to do a quick little PowerPoint presentation here for you guys, and we have a new council member and ask any questions, but there's been a lot of discussion over the past year about rebooting the TPAC, our Tourism Promotion Advisory Committee, and we're going to discuss it tonight. And moving forward, if so desired, what the steps will be going forward in doing this. So, but if you want to go ahead and put up the PowerPoint, okay. Next. Yeah, we're going to talk really quick about the conception of TPAC, the makeup of the committee as it was before, and we won't get into too far in depth with all the expenditures and all that, but then we'll talk quickly about the repealing of it as well. So in 2012, the City Council established a TPAC, the Tourism Advisory Committee, and had discussed it for a while, and then there was some indication that they wanted to make it a little bit more of a structured. So you can go to the next one. In 2014, the council was presented a workshop and discussed some of the issues in regards to drafting up the ordinance. And before you tonight, we have ordinance, the TPAC ordinance from 2014, and then which was repealed in 2020. So it's, you can go to the next slide. I won't bore you with all the history, but the conception, you have the handouts here too that breaks it down, talking about the mission and the goals of the Tourism Committee is to essentially put heads in beds for our community, and by utilizing our transient lodging taxes. And go to the next one. The powers and responsibilities of the TPAC were established, shall serve at the pleasure of the City Council. Each committee member is honorary without any compensation, as all of our committees and the council as well. And all the meetings must be open to the public and noticed. And we still have to, take minutes and so forth. And go to the next one. The membership of the committee itself was kind of broken down, and I think there'll probably be a little bit discussion tonight and potentially changing it up. Essentially, it's a 7-person committee that will have members that are staggered, and the way they had it set up before was, let me go back here. We had, of course, a chair, and we also had, let me pull it up real quick, sorry about that. So all the members shall be residents, at least 4 of the 7 members were going to be residents of Brookings. All the members, I apologize, have to be residents of Curry County. Non-city residents must have an economic interest, such as property ownership, business ownership, or employment within the city. These members shall not be employees or officials of the city, and no member of any other city council appointed board committee shall simultaneously serve on the TPAC as well. And go to the next slide. The terms, as we talked about before, they were going to be staggered, which is very common. So you have every year you have members coming on and going on and coming off. Go to the next one. And like I said, I'm not going to drill down to the details of all the spending, but essentially the way the TPAC was established was we took 25% of the total revenue that's brought in by the TLT, which currently is about close to 400,000. So 100,000 of it, hey, how's it going? 100,000 of it was here, and then the council, through the budgeting process, would establish how much to allot that year for the tourism. Now, I will tell you, in some years they didn't spend a whole lot, but that 100,000 also was utilized in helping pay for, public safety, the things that are necessary for holding events and so forth, the ancillary cost within the city itself to absorb that as well. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it was established. And as you could tell from the beginning, at the very beginning, it looked like they had a whole lot of momentum and spent quite a bit on different events and that are out there. And currently, the way the TPAC is set up right now is there's an application process, and our folks out there can apply for, I think, what's it, Tony, up to 2,000 is what the max is right now on the TPAC, I believe, for the amount. I think it's 2,000. Yeah.
I think that sounds correct.
And that's utilized primarily for advertising. And the way it's set up now, we have to have receipts and invoices and everything turned in for reimbursement as well in order to do that. But again, primarily it's used right now for advertising and promotion. And then, as you can tell, as you kind of went through the years there, like if you go start looking at 2015, 16, 17, wasn't a whole lot of activity going on in TPAC, and but I mean there was some, but it just wasn't, I would say, as much as it was at the beginning when the momentum was occurring. So, and I asked staff about why it kind of fizzled out, I guess you could say, and leading up to 2020. I think, by talking to some of the staff, they just felt like, as well as the council at the time that was here back in 2020, that it just wasn't, it didn't have a whole lot of impact at its current use. And they felt like, and there were some things going on where requests were being made for certain things, and we had one for $2,500 to buy a drone for the school, and it was supposed to be utilized for promotion and those type of things. And from what I've been told, the drone crashed, and nobody knows what, do we have the drone here? I don't even know where the drone's at. So these are the type of things that we kind of found ourselves in the, we try to be good stewards and making sure, and I'm not saying that was a bad decision, but I don't think that was, I think there was some good intent by getting the drone and utilizing that, but the devil's in the details and making sure that those things are being done. So, and the way we have it, now is a little bit different, of course, but essentially, at the time, the council felt like it was not an effective use of resources, so they decided to appeal it. And again, I wasn't here. None of you were here as well in 2020 when it was, as far as council members go, when it was disbanded. There's been quite a bit of talk, like I said, over the last, and it was appealed in June of 2020. And there's been a lot of discussion over the last year of doing some sort of reboot and reorganizing TPAC to establish it and maybe give it a little bit more teeth than it was before. And, you know, of course, still with oversight from the council having the final decision on, you know, the budget and the yearly amounts that will be allocated if the council chooses to move forward and do so. So that's kind of, like I said, it in a nutshell where we're at now. And I gave everybody a copy of the ordinance from 2014. There was no sense in putting the one from 2020 when it was repealed because it was just red line strike through on the whole thing. So myself and Wendy have kicked this around quite a bit over the last couple of months, and, you know, maybe trying to come up with a few changes. I think, you know, maybe one of the recommendations is we looked at is, you know, having 2 Brookings residents, at least 2 representatives from the Brookings lodging and hospitality industry, 1 representative from the Brookings Harbor Port District. And let me back up by saying it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody sitting on the port. I mean, that can be flexible. We felt like it could be a business owner down in the port, but somebody that's, you know, there on a day-to-day basis, because, I mean, quite honestly, the port brings in a lot of folks here too, to Brookings. I've expressed with this council, you know, one of the reasons why I'm sitting here today was because somebody told us we needed to go to Brookings if we wanted to go, when I was in Siskiyou County, to go for the nearest beach access that would be a good trip. And so we were camping, and we would park down at the beachfront RV park, and then the next thing we did is we drove into town to Fred's and loaded up on food for the week, and like a lot of people do. And so, and we ate at restaurants here, we ate at restaurants over there in the harbor as well. But as we know, you know, the tourism industry, the port brings a lot of folks in. We also looked at possibly having 1 representative from the Curry County Chamber of Commerce, and 1 at-large member that has demonstrated an interest or expertise in tourism marketing or economic development. So that we felt like is a good, healthy mix of folks that could, you know, take TPAC to the next level and make it much more effective and much more efficient use of funds than perhaps previously done. So, and that's a quick down and dirty on the history of TPAC and where we are today.
Questions, discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. First off, I support reinitiating TPAC, but I also recognize and appreciate us taking a good look at what worked last time and, you know, what didn't work. It was disbanded, and I have to trust the wisdom of previous city councils that it was disbanded for a good reason. I don't like, you know, playing armchair quarterback. These are all intelligent people, and they're voted into those positions to make intelligent decisions. But anyway, so I really appreciate us taking a good look at this and, you know, figuring out, hey, how can we make it work? You know, let's make the adjustments that we need to make so it's a service to the community, but not fall into the same, you know, pitfalls and traps that we fell into apparently last time. One of the questions I had is, you know, why 7 people? I mean, it's hard to get a consensus with 5. I mean, 7's a lot, and it's also hard to get a quorum with 7. So I'm just kind of wondering if we, you know, maybe consider looking at that. Maybe 5's a better number. I don't know. It's just hard to get that many people in a room at one time. So it's one comment I had. And then, and I also really, I do like the changes to the configuration that are suggested here. Those are my comments on it. I think that's, it's good to strategically have people, on that committee that are representing each of those entities and industries. So those are my comments on it. And and then just a quick comment on the transient lodging tax. I think it's important to recognize how much good that does for our community. And at some point, we may even want to take a look at that transient lodging tax and see how it's administered. But it's really one of the few ways that the city gets money from people that come to visit our city and use our facilities. They do put wear and tear on our infrastructure. They do tax our, police and fire. They use a lot of resources when they come, and we also appreciate their patronage, and they do also contribute a lot of economic impact to the community. But anyway, just my 2 cents on those two topics.
Go ahead, Christy.
I just want to add that I express my appreciation to city personnel and, of course, for the persistence of council members to kind of get this back up and running again to benefit our city. Tourism is one of our city's main sources of revenue, and TPAC can play a critical role by using these funds to kind of carry out that mission of tourism promotion. So I'm really excited about this group. Because I think it will be key in this group of people are going to, really have some development of strategies that bring more dollars into our city, not just certain events, but just an overall. So I'm looking forward to, getting this committee up and running so they can kind of bring their skills and their strategies to kind of help fund our city and, create that sense of belonging within our community, because I think they will have a big piece to that, and of course ensure that tourism is profitable and successful in our area. So I love, just as Malbert was saying, that bringing people in from those different backgrounds and perspectives, bringing in people who have a passion for making our area the best it can be. I truly believe decisions will be thoughtfully and with long-term impact in mind, and I appreciate the time, effort, and the commitment shown by everyone involved in helping restore this committee and preparing it for a positive and productive future.
Thank you, Councilor Fulton.
Oh, and I was just going to echo some of the same thoughts. I think we all have concerns of what happened in 2020 to disband it. You'd like to not repeat these whatever mistakes it sounds like might have been made then, or inefficiencies or whatever happened, but it's a great idea and we should bring it back and we should keep an eye on it, knowing that it wasn't quite right then.
Councilor Martin?
I appreciate staff, the work on the PowerPoint, the work that I've seen Tim and Wendy put into this. I think TPAC is extremely important. I think it wasn't as successful as it could have been previously because it wasn't empowered enough. I believe by law, this may have changed last year with the legislature, but we have to spend 25% of the TLT fund on tourism promotion, correct?
Actually, we're grandfathered. So the 6% that we have is not required. So we just, as a policy, I believe, do the 25%. I believe, is that?
It's an ordinance.
No. Okay, go ahead.
The 25% is defined in the ordinance of how much we will spend specifically towards
tourism. You're right. I apologize.
Advertising and
Yes.
tourism. It's actually the current law, if you're not grandfathered in, is 70% must be spent.
That's right.
And so, and I will state that that is currently being discussed and lobbied strongly in the legislature by LOC, because they do recognize, as Councilor Momberg said, the amount of strain it puts on city personnel and city infrastructure to support the 2 million visitors that come through our community. So it is important that the additional burden, that we not have to figure out ways to make that happen in our current revenue also. So the LOC is lobbying for 40%, but we're grandfathered in at a previous rate.
Well, I strongly believe that the city should help with tourism promotion. I think we should also welcome these tourists. These are the lifeblood of a lot of businesses in the downtown area, and why a lot of people have businesses that have business licenses with the city and do business here. So the tourists and visitors are an important part of our community, and they help these downtown merchants. I think previously, talking to people that were on TPAC, they didn't feel that the committee was very effective because they were kind of handcuffed on what they could do. I think we should have a clear budget and a clear directive of what TPAC does. Aside from coming up with events and organizing events, they should also have a key role in helping the city develop an advertising campaign or marketing campaign. I know city staff has a lot of really good ideas for marketing right now, but it's important to include stakeholders with that and bounce ideas off of them. But I think we need to have a clear budget of what the group is responsible for, both for advertising and event promotion. And then we need to help them make these events successful. So if somebody came up with an idea for an event, instead of, okay, do the event and turn us some receipts afterward, we should help provide funds to secure a venue, some of the costs to get the event going, and to market it to help it be successful. I think if we did that, more people in the community would come up with some events to draw people here, especially during the shoulder season. And that was the idea of TPAC, was to bring people here during the fall and winter, not necessarily just the summer when people are already here. So I think we as a council need to come up with, here's a budget, here's how much money you have for marketing, and here's how much money you have for events, and then have a good group of stakeholders that can make these decisions. For the makeup, I like the idea of 2 residents in the city of Brookings, 2 people associated with businesses that have business licenses in the city. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a restaurant or a motel, but a business in the city, and then a chamber representative and an at-large. The port district, most port districts in Oregon, their charge is economic development. Our port district itself, the port acts as a landlord down at the port. So I don't see any effort from the port to do any kind of tourism promotion other than being a landlord managing properties at the port. So I don't know what they bring to the table with this committee. You know, they don't, the only thing they bring is, can we get some of that money down here at the port?
But that's why I had mentioned, you know, even if it was, I say a representative, even if it's somebody that's a business owner in the port, that, you know, that's why, that, you know.
And I think if you're not a resident of the city of Brookings or involved with the business of the city of Brookings, then there is that one at-large position.
Can I ask you, Councilor Martin, when you're talking about a specific budget and spending authority, what do you mean by that? Do you mean it's, from what I can tell, highly unusual that a council would hand over specific spending authority to an advisory or independent committee? Those decisions are still generally run through a council as the fiduciary task holders for the budget. So what do you mean by specific budget?
So an advertising budget of however much we come up with, is it $50,000? Is it $70,000 for an advertising and marketing campaign, which the city's already involved with, but having other people to bounce the ideas off of.
And weigh in on it.
Instead of, you know, and to look back, what has the city done for the last 10 years for advertising, and has that been effective? What's the return on those advertising dollars? Have they worked? There's also, there's all kinds of advertising you can buy that you get a bunch of views, but how many people does that translate to coming to the community and spending money here? So looking at how that money is being spent. And then a set amount for events. And this could be, hey, we're going to help the community's 4th of July fireworks, which we already do, or this much for the Azalea Festival, or this much for Nature's Coastal Holiday. But a specific amount of money for people that want to come up with events to try to bring more people here. There's events that no longer happen, that if there was some money to help get them going, maybe they would happen again. You know, the Seafood Festival, we used to have the Beachcombers Festival, the Home Show, none of those, the Kite Festival. So if there was funds available for a group, a nonprofit, the chamber, whoever, individuals to come up with an event to bring tourists here.
So it sounds to me like you're saying, how can we make it less cumbersome to get access to those funds and help them promote it? Okay. I was kind of wondering, I went through these expenditures and it looked to me like that first year, a lot of money went specifically to media and TV and then events. And then later years, it kind of got restructured a little bit where it was 30% advertising, 30% towards events. And I'm wondering if we have any kind of data that shows our return on investment. In the advertising that we made or put out, in the events, how much additional bed tax did we get by the way we spent those dollars?
The only way to do it is to track revenue in our TOT to the amount we spent the prior year. I mean, there's no way to sort of quantify that.
So to me, that's part of what is necessary moving forward, is that we have a way to determine the results. When we spend on advertising, when we spend on events, how much are we really realizing in getting beds and heads? If we're not seeing the impact, then we have no measurable way of how to continue moving forward in the way that we spend our money. So I think that's an extremely important part of this, is that we figure that out. As far as the makeup of the committee, I think that if we're targeting specifically tourism, those who have the most interaction with tourism is a really important part of the discussion. I think the marketing piece is huge. I think that we need somebody who is knowledgeable in marketing, who can weigh in, and if there's business owners that have been highly successful in marketing their own business, they're going to have excellent input, in my opinion, to help us weigh into ways that we might do it better. I know, too, that we're in a different era than we used to be, and I think influencers on social media are a huge part of what drives because they've already built an audience of trust. And so there's whole platforms that just explore travel and promote their travel adventures, and then other people are watching their content and they trust their opinions and they're driven there. That's the first and most difficult aspect of marketing, is gaining the trust, and influencers have huge. So maybe we target paying for an influencer's trip to come to Brookings and promote content about Brookings on their channels. I mean, that's just one idea that I've been thinking about. Like, us promoting the city from the city's social media is going to have very limited impact, but somebody that already has a developed platform could have an enormous impact on our community. So I do like and support restructuring and being more targeted in the way this advisory committee is put together. I thought Councilor Malmberg's perspective of 7 being able to meet and weigh in is a challenge, and we already know that attendance was a problem before, so certainly we don't want to make those barriers bigger for those who participate. I did also wonder, one of the things I saw in this previous committee was there were two-year terms, no more than 2 years. Is that typical for any of our other committees?
Yeah.
There's 2-year
It's
terms?
structured on that. 2 to 3 years, I think. Sorry, I don't have the details. I was expecting that question, but yeah, it's pretty common.
Okay.
And getting, Madam Mayor, back to your point on specifics on advertising, it is, and I'm not making any excuses, but it's extremely hard to, with having, let's just say we did an ad campaign in Rogue Valley at some of the TV stations there, and they put stuff out. It's very difficult to measure how many people came here as a result of that one commercial. It's hard, like I said, the one you just discussed a few moments ago with social media, those are a little bit easier to track actually because of being able to target on specific groups. But certain things, advertisements in newspapers, magazines, those are very difficult to measure.
For sure, but if we can have, okay, this year, these are the ways that we spent the dollars.
Sure.
Events, and what kind of marketing, and then we look at the revenue of the bed tax, and obviously they're generalities, right? Like COVID, for example, it wouldn't have mattered how that money was spent. That was going to make an impact. So there's other factors involved.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So you're saying as a collective.
A way to try to measure in some form how that is actually being effective. If we see that this year we spent more of our money in advertising and less on events, and we had a whole lot more, and we see that trend continue, or vice versa, just saying that if we really want to be efficient in the way we're using money to target strategies in tourism, we need some sort of sense of whether or not that is working. Having surveys for visitors to fill out at hotels, at restaurants, on a QR code that's on a coaster at the local brewery where they can, how did you hear about us? And some very simple questions where I think data from tourists themselves is an enormous part of what we need to find out. I regularly ask down at Slugs and Stones, asking the kids that are scooping ice cream, tell me where your visitors were from. And I've had people say, you wouldn't even believe most of our visitors weren't even from our country. Or talked with people down on the beach who have said, oh, we're from Canada. Oh, really? And how many times have you been to Brookings? And what is your favorite place on the coast? And having these kind of interactions and engagements with people who actually come here, I think will help us know. I mean, my perspective is there's a lot of people who come to our community from very far-reaching areas. And so I think we don't want to limit ourselves by only targeting areas that are close by. I think that's great, and we need to make a better awareness. But I think there are people from, I know people from Arizona who come every year to fish or very frequently to fish at your charting business because they love this area and want to continue to come back here. I've had friends that said of all the vacations they've ever had, their week spent here was their most favored. So I just don't want to see us limit ourselves based on our own perception. I want to find out what is best for the community and how to best get the news out of what our community has to offer to help all of the businesses here.
I have a question kind of to Councilor Martin's point about budgets. So historically, do we know, like, how was, because it's kind of all over the place on how much money was spent year to year in the past. Was there an annual budget that was set, or is that something that was determined when we had our budget cycle every year? We go, hey, this amount we want to set aside for. Okay.
That it was established, and I visited a little bit with Lou, our finance director, today with a little bit of history. She's out today, but I called her up and asked her some questions, and she basically said that the 25% goes into the, so if it's 400,000 revenue, 100,000 dedicated to tourism, but not all of the 300,000 of it went back to the general fund and the 100,000 went dedicated to tourism. But she said some of those monies were also allocated for, to help offset public safety, public works out of the 100,000. So that's where I think there's the way it was budgeted before. It wasn't all just 100,000, 100% toward advertising and events. That was also utilized for, paying for the expenses from staff.
Well, I think like to count, and correct me if I'm misrepresenting your comment, Councilor Martin, but that we need to give them the tools they need to succeed. And when you're determining, what events you're going to advocate for, you need to know what your budget is on an annual basis. And I can see how that would be a challenge when it fluctuates like that. If they don't know, what's in the bank, how do you plan your vacation when you don't know how much money you got, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? This is basic stuff. So anyway, so I don't know if there was a way to base.
Well,
I don't want to lock this. I don't want to see the city get locked into a dedicated dollar amount every year just because, hey, stuff happens and maybe you need to pull from other resources. But also we need to do it in a way that this TPAC can be effective. They need to know what they can count on for the year. And they need to, be able to work within those constraints, right?
Yeah, sure. Would the upcoming budget cycle include the 25%?
yes. Yeah, I mean, that is allocated toward the tourism fund, and it's up to this body to determine how those of the 100,000 is going to be spent on, like I said, going to the TPAC. So, and I think that's where, like I said, it fluctuated from year to year. And as Councilor Momberg said, each year is going to present challenges. I mean, there may be some years where, with the economic downturn, it's not going to be, of course, as much as it may have been in a previous year. There may be a huge uptick as well. So, it's, and also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this because I think it's important. Right now we've got our TLT set at 6%. So it is, and I know the county just recently went from 7 to 10, I believe, and about a year ago. So there is some.
And when the county did that, did they have to change their allocation to 70%?
Yes, they had to fall within the parameters of that. So there are some restrictions.
And I believe if you go over 10%, then you have to take it to a vote.
Yes, I think Medford just did that with a TLT tax that was dedicated toward building a new hotel conference center there in Medford.
Can I comment on that TLT? The existing 6% that we have, we could keep that grandfathered in the way it is.
Yes.
The additional amount, that could be an additional 4% without a vote, which is very typical. A 10% TLT tax is I saw the city of Phoenix just raised theirs from 6 to 10. So that would be subject to whatever our state legislature decides.
70% of that 4% increase.
Correct.
Unless the legislature changes that.
You got it.
Of the increase then?
Right.
So
Of the increase only.
Yeah, not
The rest of it remains grandfathered in.
okay, interesting.
Just the increase is subject to the percentage change. Yeah. Which is complicated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Math.
Something along that line, which it somewhat would fall within the TPAC, but also the city. The city is developing a new visitor website, and on that site, again, advertising. I think we should have Google advertising to promote the website and the lodging portion of it that brings people back to a booking mechanism to book motels that are inside the city limits and specials for that. And it's going to benefit the motels in town, but also it's going to benefit the city with additional TLT taxes if those motels are filled versus other ones.
Correct. And there's going to be some, the first year of getting this thing built is going to probably be the biggest expense of it. Maintaining it after it's built is going to be not nearly as expensive, but getting it, and I sent the council some examples of that were sent to us from, I think it was Astoria. Warrenton has a incredible, both those cities have just dedicated this one website to direct tourism to them, and it's very professionally done, and I could see, as Councilor Martin was saying, putting in some sort of drivers in there to get them, your next step, click here, brings in a menu of all the motels, all the vacancies, those type of things too, so.
Have we looked at other tourist-specific communities to see if they have advisory boards like this and what that structure looks like?
Actually, the structure that I presented was based on other communities and recommendations from the tourist professionals that work with them.
Okay.
They actually went up to 9, which we slimmed it down a little bit, but I totally understand. I mean, maybe considering it's a smaller number, as long as we have the right mix, it is a struggle to get people to participate and meet that quorum every time. So
I think within the parameters of it, it did establish, like, if you missed over 50% of the meetings for the previous year, you could be subject to being removed from the board and having somebody else take the place. So, but Wendy's right. I mean, in order for this thing to be successful, we're going to have some consistency there. And if we have one member that's rarely there, then, that needs to be looked at and possibly changed. And I know everybody, especially business owners, it's cyclical, and you're going to have certain parts of the year is going to be super busy, especially in the hospitality industry as well.
So were those looked at as far as also the responsibilities and the structure of, not just the makeup of the individuals, but like the responsibilities that were assigned to that committee and those kinds of things? Have those been explored as well for other communities?
a bit. I mean, it is typically they would make recommendations that would then go to council, and then council makes the final decision. So usually they don't have authority to direct spend. The professionals that I talked to said they felt very strongly that there should be representation from lodging, because that's where we gain our TLT tax. So keep in mind, it's not just the hotels, it's your vacation rentals and even Harris Beach. So the state pays TLT on those campsites, which is a significant amount.
I did not realize
It's a big chunk of the TLT comes from the state.
I did not
through
know
Harris Beach.
that.
Yes. And as Wendy said, our short-term rentals as well. One thing, maybe thinking outside the box here, you've got some folks here that management companies, and they manage dozens of these rental properties. They may have some insight as to
Vacation rental property management company.
They're talking face to face with a lot of these folks that have, rented a place out and had any issues. So, I mean, they're very familiar with it as well. So, like Wendy said, it doesn't have to be just a hotel, motel owner. It could be somebody else that has some insight on this as well. So, that's the main thing we want, and I think that's what everybody's trying to accomplish here is, utilizing the funds in the best efficient manner, and it's going to be some hits and misses. As I said earlier, we had some, what I would consider, I know hindsight's 20/20, but looking back and saying, oh yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done this or should have done that. That's a given. But, and I'm not saying there might not be some mistakes, made along this journey as well. So we just got to be prepared to, allow this board, as Councilor Martin said, the flexibility and the opportunity to do it. And if it's within a certain guideline within our procurement policy, and moving it forward. So. Yeah,
in what I had looked into, I it was my understanding that it's very rare for direct spending authority to be given to a body. I am going to just say I have concerns with doing it directly that way. I think that's not typical practice, and there's good reason for that. And meeting procurement policies and those kinds of things, I think it's absolutely essential that there's a voice and a ways to weigh in on that, and that opinions are respected. You know, I think that's an important part of that process, that you have to actually hear the input that's given.
Well, and whoever is the makeup of this body, they need to be familiar with, you know, the budgeting and the process as well, the spending process as well. We don't want to, you know, we don't want to get in everybody's, you know, way when it comes to, you know, doing campaigns and those type of things, you know, advertising and events. Definitely don't want to get anybody's way, but we want to make sure that, like you said, there's some oversight in the fact that we don't want somebody to get in trouble, you know, unknowingly by doing something too, as well as the city as well. I mean, we're audited heavily every year. We want to make sure we keep that clean bill of health there. So, but I think there's some ways, and also you're going to have, you know, it's going to take staff time too to weigh in and be in essence, kind of a liaison with the folks, because, you know, if they want certain data or certain financial information, we have to be able to provide that to them as well. So,
Is there a budget this year for these activities, if this committee happened in the next few months?
yeah, I don't believe it's much. I think it's, what is it set at right now?
I believe Lou said it was around $20,000, because keep in mind that 25% also goes to pay salaries for our visitor center staff, and a little bit of my time and Lou's time to, you know, not a lot, but there are some other expenses.
Yeah, there is some funds available, but to be honest with you, I mean, this thing is going to take a little bit of time to set up, just because, Brooke, real quickly, you said if we get this into notice into the paper by the 19th, I think it was.
I believe so.
Then we'll get it on the first agenda in March.
Yeah.
We were hoping to get it, but we're not going to be able to meet the advertising deadlines, but it'll be the first meeting in March. If this body tonight decides to move forward, or, you know, recommends, I'm sorry, we're not going to vote, recommends that we move forward and bring this back for a vote, then it takes, was it 30 days to enact? So, I mean, we're talking April-ish, and then you guys have to appoint with advertising, get the appointments done. So, but to answer your question, you know, we are looking at, you know, Wendy and I are trying to do something before spring break, you know, get some stuff, some advertising on in the Rogue Valley of why people should be coming here for spring break, and trying to look at, you know, putting that together rather quickly, and we'll get that done. But this will, and to answer your question, Councilor Gelada, the budget process over the next couple of months will allow this body, if there's going to be a shift on, you know, the funds, that's the time to speak up and let, you know, council and the staff know what direction you want to go with as far as the total allocations toward this effort.
Can I ask, it sounds to me like kind of the thought has been from my perspective, I think everybody's on board with getting something going.
Sure.
But it sounds like the thought process has been get the ordinance and bring it directly to council. I'm wondering, like, for myself, I don't love the idea of advertising and doing an ordinance without ever, maybe, do we need to have further discussion on the ordinance that's drafted before it's actually in a council meeting? Does that make sense? Like, there might be points that once we see the draft ordinance of what staff comes up with, there might be further discussion to be had before we move it forward to actually presenting and adopting.
That's a good point. I mean, what we were basing it off of was the structure of the previous, and then I think the makeup, the number of committee members and the requirements was one of the ones that we were looking at. I mean, basically the makeup of the previous committee, any changes that want to be done to that, because that's what we need to know ahead of time as well. So you're right, we don't go into this blind and just, pencil whip it to have it here. But on the same token, I don't think it would be that difficult for us to produce something.
Does anybody else have a thought on that specifically?
I'm encouraged that staff is already taking the initiative to have some kind of advertising campaign for spring break and prior to Memorial Day weekend. I think that's important. I think Wendy's going to have an opportunity in February when she networks with other city marketing people at the Oregon Coast Visitor Association. Is that what it is?
Travel Southern Oregon
Travel
Network.
Southern Oregon event in Coos Bay, but she's going to be able to network with some other communities on the coast on how they do their tourism marketing. And I think one of 5 views here on the council, but I would like to see staff work aggressively to come up with a proposal for us for an upcoming meeting that enables this group to be successful, and some actual budget numbers, and those can be changed when we vote on it. We can narrow that down during a meeting when we vote, but come up with a proposal for us to vote on that forms this group and gives them some power to actually accomplish something.
So you're talking about like the ordinance itself? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
An ordinance that establishes the TPAC, how it's made up, and some preliminary budget numbers of what they're able to do. But I think we need to form a group and empower them to be successful. There's all kinds of reasons we can find to say no, but I want to find a way to say yes and help them benefit our community.
Sure. And that's, staff had talked about that, after the last meeting we had, and the efforts, I think, coming forward tonight was to hopefully grind out the particulars on the makeup and how many and so forth. The budget has already been established for, 25, 26, and utilizing what funds are left in that. But realistically, I mean, it's going to be April, even if we took it to the vote for the first meeting in March, it's going to be, April, early May before, the actual board is, sworn in and brought forward. And then we're just a couple months from the end of that budget cycle. So, but we do have monies available for that, so.
The budget amount isn't something put in ordinance, that's something done through the budget process.
That's just through the budget process completely.
Year to year.
Yeah, that's all it is. And this council, from year to year can fluctuate that amount or percentages.
But they would know at the beginning of the year what they have.
Of July 1, yes. Yeah. So
That, I think is the important thing. That
Yeah.
you know what your annual budget is, and you're
Absolutely.
That's based on that, not just there's some money out there. Depending on what you come up with, we may or may not approve it. I don't want to get into that state.
Yeah.
I want to empower these people to.
And a lot of this is going to be hammered out during the budget process. So by this body right here and the budget committee too. So.
I think some important language in here for conflicts of interest. I would like to see a chamber representative on there, but I also want the chamber to, if they came up with a proposal of organizing an event and putting something together, that they're able to do that, then they can participate in the discussions where they talk about funding that.
Sure.
Actually hit the ground running and do something with it.
Yeah, I believe Councilor Martin, the only time that ever becomes a conflict of interest is if it's directly benefiting themselves, their own personal business. But if it's something for the chamber, which is for the good of the community, I don't see a conflict of interest there. It has to be when it's drilled down for an individual, if, let's just say, business ABC decides they're on this committee, and then they're like, you know, then they are making recommendations for big chunks of it to go offset, you know, they're putting on an event or something, and they want a big chunk of that going toward their event at their business, then that's when the conflict of interest. And I think a little bit of that started rising up toward the end of TPAC, and it's what got a few folks upset about some things. So, I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I do think that we have to make sure that, you know, we have checks and balances in place to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, and maybe even making it clear on the onset that participation, you know, you've got to be cautious of those ethical guidelines.
Sure.
To not
They have to follow the same
be doing
guidelines.
your own, not for your own personal interests.
Yes.
Like that would be a really important clarifying, maybe having those kinds of, you know, rules set forward from the onset would make that with a clear expectation of those
Sure.
kinds of things.
Sure.
So we don't
Absolutely.
get into muddy waters.
But there will always be some of that because they are local business owners recommending local business events.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think,
it'll be fine lines.
Well,
but if you own the biggest facility in town that's going to have the group event, yeah, that's probably across the line. But you want them to benefit from these.
absolutely. And that's the key to this. It's not just, well, what can TPAC do for my ABC business? It's what can I do for the whole community? And that's where I think, and you know, don't get me, you know, 95% of the folks are always going to be looking at it from that standpoint, but we just don't want, you know, people crossing that line. And but I do think, you know, having like a staff liaison present at the meetings would be helpful for that as well. So,
And they're bringing these ideas here, right? And
Absolutely.
we can be that
Yeah, because
third party look at it saying, maybe we need to spread this out a little more.
even for us, if we have a conflict of interest and something's going to financially benefit us in a decision that's been being made up here, we have the responsibility to exclude ourselves from that. And so the expectation would be, yes, weigh in on ideas and input, but if it's going to financially benefit, that's a really cautious place.
Yeah, I had a previous city that I was at, and the Chamber of Commerce would, you know, come to the city and ask for funds to promote certain events and things. And then we had a couple of folks that own businesses in town. They're like, well, I can't vote on this because it's going to direct. Well, it's not directly, it's impacting the entire community. So, I mean, you can't get so nitpicky where you go, well, I can't vote on that because we're giving the chamber this, and 'cause
Right.
it's not, I mean, it's not directly going into their pocket. So,
I think more like if it was Wild Rivers Film Festival and one of their board members was on the committee and they were voting for all this money to go directly to the festival to promote. That's
what-
more the
Right.
kind of the scenario
Yes.
that is of concern.
agreed.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry. So we're looking at, you know, any additional input. I mean, is the kind of the consensus is to keep it at 7 or go down to 5? I mean, is there any more input in regards to that?
I'm just concerned that we'll have issues forming a quorum and getting adequate attendance to be effective, that's all.
Okay.
I mean, if there's that many people interested, that's great, but I hate to tie our hands. There's, one of the positions is on the, oh, geez, I just had it right in front of me, but one of the positions is on the Curry County Chamber of Commerce. From what I understand, I think there's only one person really advocating on the Curry County Chamber. If she's not interested, guess what? Now you're out, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one of the concerns.
But
I had.
it could be somebody
You wanna
from their
be able
board of directors as well, though.
Well,
too.
yeah, but you want to be able to form a quorum. That was my only concern. If there's that many people really interested in it, then cool, but.
Yeah, understood.
Did neither of you spoke directly to that, nor Councilor Fulton if she's still with us
I think
online?
5 is a good number for this.
Okay.
Oh, what was that? I'm sorry.
I think 5 is a good number.
I agree with that. It sounds like there's a lot of concern about getting 7 together reliably, so.
Councilor Fulton?
I agree, I think 5 would probably be a better deal.
We've had a lot of discussion. Did you have other thoughts you wanted to communicate?
No, I'm just really excited to be able to get this committee off the ground going and being successful. So, whatever, as far as what, numbers of people or whatever, whatever's going to work, that's what I want. And I do agree, 5 would probably be better than 7. I can't have kids or 7 kids to get done, right? So when you comply usually at 5. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Were there any other things that you need further clarity or direction on?
Yeah, if there could be some additional discussion on what the 5.
The makeup.
Right.
Here's an idea of three members that are either residents of the city of Brookings or representatives of the Brookings lodging and hospitality industry. So that's 3 of the seats, and then the other 2 at large.
So 3 Brookings residents
Or associated with a lodging or hospitality business with a Brookings city license. Brookings business license.
I'm going to state that from my perspective, I think it's essential that we have someone that has economic development or marketing or some sort of expertise on that to weigh in on. I think that would be really important when we're talking about that.
I would say, since you get to review the applicants and you choose the applicants, that would be a criteria that you would use in that process, not necessarily writing it into the ordinance. That'd be an easy way to handle that.
I agree, except that I'm only one person right now and not moving forward. And so I think that we have to think beyond today in how we structure that and what is good input when we're over an advisory board specifically for tourism. What is a good body of input, a voice for that in particular? I think that for me, when I think about what the makeup is, that's kind of what I'm trying to weigh it as. Who's going to be the best voices in our community to weigh in on that particular aspect? Because that's what we're seeking, is advice on the tourism industry and how to target our local market.
I like the idea of 3 city business owners or hospitality type folks, and then 2 residents. I don't like the at-large idea, just some random. I mean, if we're going to have that position, then they should be a city resident in my position. So my opinion. So I think that would be a better makeup. You'd have 3 people who are really connected to the business community and the tourism industry, and then 2 city residents.
And I would just expand that and allow the people who live 100 yards outside the city boundary, so the urban growth boundary, they're in the area. They're in the city of Brookings effectively.
Councilor Fulton?
If you lean in on what Mayor Pareto said about having someone who has that background and knowledge, they're going to have the ability to make some pretty big decisions. And not to say that regularly people won't have that, but we need to look down towards the future, up towards the future of where we're going and how this committee can help us get there. And so we need someone with that knowledge that has marketing, tourism, business, something on that line. That's my
I mean, we might have some folks here in town or within the urban growth boundary that might have that experience. So, but having that experience and convincing them to be a part of this board
Could be hard.
Could be very difficult. So, so anyway, I'm just saying to find those folks. Here's the thing, though. If after this first year, this body decides, after looking at, the makeup of the committee, that they feel like it's something that, that needs to be changed, that can be changed. It's not that hard to make an amendment to the ordinance. So
The only reason why I kind of went with that is I think that the people on this committee have to have skin in the game. And if you're not a resident, you're not paying tax in the city. If you're not a business owner or a business representative, you're not contributing to it either. And so you have zero skin in the game if you're not one of those two parties. So for me, that's why I think, we're responsible for managing the dollars that come into this community. And I think the people on that board need to have that skin in the game. We're all city residents for a reason. We're required to be on this board. And I think if you're not a city resident, you at least need to be connected in some way to the hospitality industry or the tourism industry, from my perspective.
And I think that's a good point.
I agree.
So we want all 5 positions to be residents within Brookings?
No, I would say that 2 of them need to be residents and 3 of them could be in some way connected to the hospitality industry. That could be through the, as you had mentioned, short-term rentals, through other types of businesses that, advocate for tourism
But
promotion.
but those members, you want them to live in the city limits?
2.
Just the 2 have to live in the city limits?
That would be my.
Okay.
I think, so 2 that live in the city limits, and the other 3 have to be connected to businesses in the city limits.
That's what I'm getting at.
So, and it could be a vacation rental, it could be a restaurant, it could be, the tire store.
Sure. Okay.
Well, but maybe we should clarify this. Is this a business license or the lodging and hospitality industry?
Well, they would have that. They would have a short-term rental registration. It would be the same.
I think general business input can be helpful, but I do think it's important that we have specifically tourism, hospitality type voices in the mix.
Here's a way to look at this. When I was on the chamber board, Dr. Walker, the eye doctor, he sat there and it was kind of a trick question to everybody. He goes, why? Because I'm an eye doctor. Why do I care about tourist businesses in Brookings? Are they going to buy eyeglasses from me? And everybody's like, yeah, are they going to buy eyeglasses from you? He goes, but the reason why is the person who owns the restaurant buys glasses from me. The person who owns the hotel buys glasses from me. This person buys glasses from me. So other businesses in town have a huge connection with people that the employment and the revenue that's generated from tourist type businesses and how it's passed on.
They care deeply about the survival of our local.
But it's all interconnected. So
that makes sense.
The person who has the motel is buying tires, or they're going to the pharmacy or whatever.
It'll definitely increase your applicant pool that you can choose from
Yeah, that's true.
to consider.
Yeah, that's really good thought and input and insight. I appreciate that.
So we've established what the makeup and the number of the body is. Is everybody okay with the current language? I mean, it's the existing, what it was before. And of course, with some modifications on membership and everything else, so.
So we've all expressed, priorities of what we'd like to see to make.
Sure.
How much has to be written into the ordinance? Can't this be worked out in the application process? That we emphasize?
No, I'm not thinking about necessarily the membership. I'm talking about the rest,
Well, the membership was part of the original ordinance.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great
And I'm
point.
suggesting, why does it have to be part of the ordinance? That we could say city residents and leave it at that, and then we can emphasize the makeup during the application process.
I think just coming from the planning commission before I was here, I think all of the commissions have similar types of ordinances that require the makeup to consist of X percentage of this and X percentage of that. I think they're all like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you guys know of an exception to that, but I think.
What are you referencing, membership?
Yeah, like say, for example, Parks and Rec Committee, Planning
Parks
Commission.
and Rec Commission is 4 city, 1 UGB. Planning Commission is 6 city, 1 UGB.
Right, so they've all got that similar language is what I'm getting at. The makeup may be different for each of them, but as part of the ordinance, every one of those committees has some type of language defining the membership characteristics.
But as specific as you must own a hotel.
That would be specific for this,
Yeah.
if we were going to do that. But yeah, those criteria can be specific to the committee, but every committee that the city has some type of criteria for the membership makeup.
I just wonder if we put it in the ordinance and we don't get the applicants that meet the
Like
criteria.
over limiting the options.
Yeah, so now we don't get 3 hospitality owners applying.
Yeah, I understand, but I think if, from what I garnered a few minutes ago, that's not specifically what you guys are asking for, is it? You're wanting specifically 3 people in the hospitality?
3 representatives
Of business.
of businesses with a business license or whatever language Tony said about the short-term rentals.
So it says, in the original code, it said at least 4 of the 7 members shall be residents of the city of Brookings. So what we're saying is at least 2, or do you want to say at least 3?
I think 2 that are city residents, 3 that are associated with a city business.
So it says in here, the next says, non-city residents must have an economic interest such as property ownership, business ownership, employment. So we could change that sentence to specifically lodging, hospitality.
I thought we just a business in the city.
Okay, so
What if it's-
this language is fine, the way it's written, we're just changing the numbers then.
And what if it says, is there any harm in putting in with a preference of at least 1 that has is in the hospitality industry, or,
What if you don't get one?
well, that's why I said strong preference for that.
Yeah.
So that way we're specifically inviting and asking for that voice to be part of the discussion. Where we're not limiting, where we have to, that has to be a checked off box, but it's hoping and inviting and showing that we're looking specifically for this demographic to weigh in.
Yeah, for me, it just comes back to having skin in the game. That's my, I just want to make sure that the people on this board have skin in the game.
I think
We don't, not that it would happen, and not to say anything, about our neighbors to the south, but you don't want some random person from Crescent City or Eureka or whatever that has no skin in the game here, to be represented on the board. That's why I just think it needs to be a resident or business owner or someone directly involved with the tourism promotion within our community. That's what I mean by it.
this committee has the potential of helping businesses that are in the hospitality industry. So I think people like that will want to have a voice here. I think they will just being able to apply for it. There's going to be people that will seek those positions associated with businesses.
Yeah, in the end, this body will get to decide who sits on that board, so.
Has that been helpful?
So again, we're going to do 2 city limits residents, and that could be, any type of person, and then 3 that have a business license with preference to somebody who is in the hospitality or lodging industry, correct?
Representatives associated with the business.
Right.
Or associated with.
And you want that stated in the ordinance.
Want what stated?
The preference on the hospitality, you want that actually stated in the ordinance.
It sounds like others don't hold that same opinion.
It's pretty soft language, though. It's a preference, right? It's not binding that if someone doesn't apply.
Again, we're asking, do you want us to do, of course we
I don't think it
can,
needs
we
to
can
be
word
that.
craft it to say that, it's just, yeah.
When the mayor gets to review these applicants, if there's 10 applicants, like,
Yeah.
look at this person, they're doing this and this, and it makes it.
Right.
Just fear to disqualify good candidates that don't have that background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think Walker's a great example. He was a good candidate for lots of things, and he was an eye doctor, but he's very smart and very engaged with a lot of nonprofits in our area, and he had a great perspective, so he'd be somebody that wouldn't fit that criteria, but he'd be a great candidate.
So you're saying he was a visionary?
He was a visionary, for sure. Sure.
Dad joke
Well,
of the day.
I'm sorry.
Well, in ways that, yeah, for me, like that's helpful. I want to know that that's that person's perspective, that they do have a pulse in the business community and that they want to share that input. But it sounds like you're saying that's something we need to really narrow down through the application and interview process,
Yes.
rather than stating it specifically in ordinance. So I'd really love to see us kind of hone in on how we can do that piece really well.
Good.
Really well.
So with the marching orders that we've got tonight, does this body feel comfortable about bringing it for a vote at the next council meeting? I mean, it's probably going to take 2 or 3 months before everything's put in place, before you get all the applications, before everything's done. So they're going to be gearing up. I feel like this group will probably be gearing up heavily for the, 20, good grief, the 26, 27 budget. So.
Councilor Fulton? I want to make sure we get your thoughts since you're not here to show clear signs that you'd like to give input. So did you want to make any more statements or make anything known specifically about city manager's comments?
I'm confident and moving forward and believing that we can get the next meeting.
Just to be clear, it won't be at the next meeting because.
Oh, my bad. I apologize. It has to be advertised.
To put the proper
My bad.
notices out to the public, yeah.
Yep.
Are we having a workshop next, the 23rd?
We haven't, I believe,
Because we could bring the draft ordinance to the 23rd workshop.
well, but it's going to be advertised.
I need it by I think the 18th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything else that we need to make sure we clarify?
Circling back to Councilor Martin's comment about a specific budget, since our budget is going to, our revenue is going to change every year, were you still seeking something specifically in the ordinance or like a percentage or?
I think that was addressed properly. We're fine. I think I'm pleased to see that this is moving forward, and next year in January or December, we're not having this discussion. We're talking about, hey, look, we might be having this event next year or something. So at least a major step to allow some progress to be made on tourism promotion and events.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there anything else? No? Okay, then we will move on to council member requests for workshop topics.
I'd like to stay focused on working on our strategic plan. I know we talked about that a couple times, and so next time we have the opportunity to take another stab at that, I'm looking forward to that. That was a little while back, but yeah. Sure. Mission, vision, goals, strategic plan, all that kind of stuff that we were talking about a little bit. I just don't want that to die. I want to make sure that we keep that on our radar.
And before we adjourn, I have somebody in the audience. I don't know if you want to do this now. Amy, who is the president of the Harbor Fire District, was wanting to address the council real quick. Nothing business related, but just a thank you. Can we allow her to give us a thank you?
Sure.
She was a little bit, she came in a little bit after the fact. She's a little hobbled right now, so we'll give her some grace on that. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wanted to.
You can come up to the mic if you.
Thank you. My name's Amy Cusimano, and as Tim said, that I am the Harbor Fire Chair Director right now, and I wanted to introduce our new fire chief that we just hired, and also thank you guys for our IGA that we just finished. So this is Paul Dollar, our new fire chief, and we wrote you guys a letter, so I just wanted to read the letter and thank you. Dear City of Brookings Fire and Rescue and City of Brookings, the Harbor Rural Fire Protection District Board of Directors would like to thank you for assisting our department with legal matters when and where it mattered most. You took on our department as well as our constituents and our most valued treasure place, our homes. We would like to highlight some of the benefits our department received because of your working partnership with us in the City of Brookings. Strong leadership, for one. Our department was able to witness file and rank and file relationships, working cohesively with leadership, and observe how a team operates. This enabled our team to see why we do what we do and receive valuable training as a result. Brookings Fire has been a tremendous help in raising our volunteers' level of education in fire and rescue. Additionally, our volunteers gained experience under a seasoned chain of command that is highly respected and admirable. As a result, our volunteers can obtain certifications needed with the guidance and training in Brookings Fire and Rescue leadership. Although we are ending our contract officially, this does not end the working partnership we look forward to continuing with Brookings Fire in the near and distant future. It is our expectation Harbor Fire and Brookings Fire will continue to foster and grow their working relationships with one another continuously, helping to build trust and respect within our communities, with safety being the paramount. We look forward to 2026 calendar year as it will present its own set of unforeseen challenges. However, we have confidence that our continued working partnership with Brookings Fire and Rescue will help both departments be prepared to handle emergent issues cohesively when needed. We thank you again for your team and your support during this time and look forward to more leadership and guidance from you. Thank you.
Thank you. And a big shout out, he's not here tonight, neither one of them are here, but Chief Lee and Captain Watson were very instrumental in that as well.
That's exactly what I was going to say. They deserve all the kudos for that.
Yeah.
Yes. And we really do appreciate it. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. So thank you.
I'm sure you express their gratitude for that, and I do as well. I think we all do as well.
Yeah, I really look forward to continuing that partnership. You guys have been great neighbors, and I know that we back each other up, and looking forward to seeing more of that. So,
yeah, especially where we live and the challenges that we face.
Yep.
And so,
Thank you for coming in person to make sure we heard that gratitude.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
We're glad, I'm glad to see that you're able to move through that challenging time for your department and the fire district there, and to get to where you are today. So that's really good news that things went up instead of down.
Thank you. Yes, it's been very tumultuous, to say the least.
And welcome and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Fulton, did you have any workshop topics you would like added? Thank you. Anything else?